Welcome back. Today I'm actually going to talk about different hawk builds for a couple of reasons. First is some of you may already have one. Maybe you luckily got one through the tokens, or some of you have won them through different giveaways. I know the giveaways are actually paying out now. And for those of you that don't have a hawk, I wouldn't be too disappointed because I think there's a learning curve and they're squishy right now, and the ones I've seen on the field suffer the same fate as this one is about to suffer shortly. They are truly Titan killers. And this is my theory right now, if you see the targeting of the beam on a Titan, as you'll see shortly, the health goes down far faster than a normal bot. So you can see here, if you follow the Titan's health, it drops pretty darn quickly. I know this one maybe not as quickly as it should. And a poor landing, as you can see, usually does not lead to great outcomes. So I'm trying different builds, and I'll kind of talk through this build that I'm working on right now. It's a Dragoon Marquee setup, and when I first tested this bot out on the test server, I did think this would be a good build since they felt kind of squishy. And you can see here, this is an MK2 Dragoon pair with MK 1.10. So it's just a level 10 Marquee pairing. It's doing a fair amount of damage and really kind of picking folks off. So you will probably get a long range build like this on the battlefield in this new meta. So it'll be kind of the Dragoon build. I would surmise another 30% of people will have a build that will be mid-range, and that'll be probably the Quarker or Avenger with either Punishers or Nucleons as their kind of mid-range build. And then you'll have the short-range build, which I've shown in the earlier video, where you have the either Glaciers or Embers paired up with Rime. So the long-range build is something to be wary of. Some of you may end up getting a Jaeger in the next event when that comes out, and that's going to be an ultra long-range build. So I think what we need to be mindful of is the fact that long-range setups like this will have an impact on your gameplay and the game style. So you will have to kind of adjust your handle accordingly, and we look forward to really managing snipers. So this is kind of like War Robots back in the day. You saw there in that last clip that the Dragoon Marquee build is pretty good. I ended up on the same map again with the same build. And you know, this is domination, so this build really does flourish well in Dom. And you have to be kind of selfish when you play this sort of build as well. So if you're a Hawk player, make sure you're with this squad, because you're essentially going to neglect most of the actual beacons and just sit there and fire away at people, because you really can't grab beacons with this new bot. Same can be said for Scorpion too. It's just these new bots are not strong enough to hold down beacons. They're not really strong enough to manage anything of that manner. So something to be aware of, but the long range build is nice in the sense that you can really get a lot of damage racked up. I think in the end of this game I managed to clear about probably 2 or 3 mil in damage. So and I think majority of that actually came from the Dragoons and Marquees. So if you're placed situationally well with a Hawk, you can really kind of take down people. Staying in cover again is the key thing to really manage these distance builds. So that's something to keep in mind. But a good Hawk player will go from cover to cover, and you can see there I went from one area of cover to the just under the bridge. So it's a tough bot in a long range build to really attack, because if they sit back at 610 meters and then fly into 500 with their beam, and then they take you back out with the Dragoons like this, for instance, you're going to want to probably kill yourself. So the best way to counter this, in my opinion, is honestly to bring back some of the old school builds that we had. So either maybe a Bulwark with Tempest, a Quad Tempest would be great to kind of counter this distance build. But then again, you might get squished in certain ranges. Unless you have Tempest shot grouping. Another good counter to this sort of build would be like a Fury with Dragoons. I mean, again, squishy as well, but if you can kind of come in and out of range quickly, you might be okay. I wouldn't suggest the Natasha because I think the Natasha's a little bit slower. Oh, actually, maybe the Natasha and Fury are about the same speed, so I think that. So the distance build will be another meta shifting obnoxious aspect of the game, and I think we need to prepare for that. Shielded bots may be relevant again against this sort of thing, so Lancelot or Galahad would be able to at least handle at least 1 or 2 salvos of the beam. But you can see the damage that's kind of like, racking up here, and it's probably infuriating for some players because, I mean, I hated it when I got sniped on by Dragoon Fury, so this is kind of the same sense, only this is a bot that's much faster and then goes into like full, defense mode and can like basically annihilate everybody with one fell swoop. So, the counters will be probably limited at first, but you can see that with a little practice, you could probably, wipe out this sort of hot player. I think I ultimately ended up dying here with a misstep, so you better kind of, it's good to maybe force a misstep or get your Titan out to kind of put a little pressure on the Hawk, so you can kind of see how they'll react to it. Again, the deflection seems to work pretty decent. This is a level 10 now. I finally upgraded it from 7 to 10. But I tend to see that being work more strongly at levels at this level against Titans. And you can see here, ultimately, when a Aojun comes, and this is still my prevailing theory, the Aojun is still a more superior brawler than this bot. So again, back to my brawling build with Ember, as you can use Quarkers too. This map actually lends itself to really kind of great ducking and hiding. I use this build probably more often than not in Beacon Rush, because Beacon Rush people are kind of getting in your face and you want to kind of push them back, so I would never use a Dragoon build there. So I think if you're going to play Beacon Rush and you have a Smart Hawk player, you're going to probably expect more of these builds. And I think if they have a Glacier build, Glacier Rime build, it's actually pretty easy to manage those rockets because they're going to get nerfed soon too. So that's good. And you can run builds that have Aegis shields, or the Haiichi bubble shield as well. I'm forgetting the name of that shield. So those are options if you run into a Hawk in VR. And I enjoy playing this a lot more because you can kind of get into people's faces and kind of hide behind corners and corner shoot. It's far more enjoyable for me than doing the Dragoon build, but it has its pluses and minuses. In this game, I managed to actually get my Titan charged up with just this bot, so I did rush the initial beacons with a Blitz, died pretty quickly, and then I kind of hung out for several minutes with this guy. The only trick, of course, is managing to aim your embers, which I'm not doing right now. So I would say net for Beacon Rush, the Smart Hawk builds are going to be short ranged and aggressive, but you can really kind of start taking them apart if you are mindful of them. And I would say for domination, or maybe even team deathmatch, for long range, a Hawk build would probably be prevalent. And I would say if you're going to play domination, or if you're going to play team deathmatch, you may have to alter your play style to have like a physical shield in place in order to duck in and out of cover. It'll help against Hawk players that are doing long range builds. It'll also help against Wings as well to some certain extent. I really do think that picks with the shift in meta to physical shields again, because obviously those rail guns will come out too, and those are going to be pinging people off at 1,000 meters or so. That we get some good shielded bots back in the pipeline, and maybe even possibly get better pilots for the Galahad and the Lancelot, which I think are still great bots, and I still have them in my handgun. I still use them on occasion, especially the Ghost Lancelot. That's a pretty awesome build, and that might be the relevant build, in TDM, and domination, so you can kind of handle the Mings and the Hawks. You know, in the end, as you can see here, you still need to bring in your Titan. You can't really substitute for a Titan. So enjoy your Hawks. Hopefully this was informational, and join me next time. Thanks.